managers only expected to rely on radioactive waste shipping coordinators to handle the shipping. Management must be involved. They must own it. Things to consider: object dose rate versus shipment type. Think about the event we discussed. At first, the dose rates were within Department of Transportation limits. But dose wasn't the initial risk. We talked about things that come out of a spent fuel pool have a very high risk of discrete radioactive particles. That was the defining risk. Not the regular dose on the object itself, but the dose rates on the particles that could become dislodged. Object dose rate, not very high. Shipment type, full of discrete radioactive particles. We need to worry about that. First time evolution. This was the first time that this plant had done something like this. Should have had heightened oversight because of this. And we had complacency. A lot of guys in the shipping department had been there many years, had done a lot of shipments. Although this was the first time evolution like this, it was treated as just another shipment. Complacency will get us in trouble. We can't have that, especially with the safety of the public involved. Assess the risk, manage the risk. In managing the risk, you have to own the risk. Levels of supervisory involvement and approvals during the performance of radiation surveys, loading, and packaging of material must be commensurate with the risk involved. This was a high-risk shipment. We need supervisory involvement at all stages of the shipment. Surveys, loading, packaging, and shipping. Again, like I said before, management can't just assess the risk, they have to manage and own the risk at all levels. That's how you lower risk, that's how you stop events. Work planning must consider risk of the shipments. How do you lower risk? Properly plan and ask the hard question, use your human performance tools in the beginning. Questioning attitude, stop, think, act, review in the planning process. Is the end of an outage push placing your station in an error-likely situation? Time, time, time. Get it done, get the shipment off site, we need to get the outage over with. You need to combat that type of thinking with stop, think, act, review. Stop, think about the risk, act by getting more accurate meters, getting supervision involved, review what you've done before you send it down the road. Is packaging and shipping radioactive material in your outage work schedule? A lot of plants don't do this. The shipment of radioactive material is a side job that's not part of the outage plant schedule. When that is the case and a shipment comes up and resources need to be pulled from the plant to manage these shipments, that's when it starts to receive attention. That's when people start putting time pressure on the job. We have to own this and put it in the outage schedule so that it can be planned properly ahead of time. No more stealing resources from the plant to get the shipment done. Resources, because it's in the schedule, will be allotted to the shipment. Conservative thinking, conservative decision making, proper resource allocation lowers risk. Remember, this is all about the protection of the public and the protection of our industry. The planning process must ensure that the correct priorities are placed on conducting shipment-related activities. Let's talk about discrete radioactive particles. We've kind of talked about it the entire lecture. It's the main thing that was the cause of this event. Discrete radioactive particles. Consideration must be made for these particles going undetected during surveys. Now, this plant learned by getting more accurate meters that have an audible tone to them to let the worker look at what they're surveying and hear what the meter is reading. To enhance the detection of discrete radioactive particles, include in RP programs a requirement to use sensitive radiation detection instruments with the audible function activated. We've discussed that. Any questions on this type of material? This type of survey material? Everyone understand the audible function and accuracy of the survey instrument that was needed? Okay, good. Discrete radioactive particle risk assessment continued. Does the presence of discrete radioactive particles change the object's activity profile? Again, shipments are not just dose rates. The activity profile is also based on contamination levels. We have to consider both. Is the activity reasonably considered to be distributed throughout the object? When filling out shipment paperwork, consideration has to be made with contamination. Is the contamination located inside the object? Is it distributed all over the outside of the object? Is it loose? Is it fixed? All of these things have to be considered. The use of a fixative should be considered if exposure to discrete radioactive particles has been possible. Now, the fixative that they are talking about in this situation is they use that cellophane saran wrap and wrapped the object up before they put it into the shipping container. Now, other types of fixative is there are certain glues that can be sprayed on objects. When a lot of plants decided to ship their reactor heads for disposal, they encased them in a type of fixative. It was a glue that they sprayed on to stop discrete radioactive particles from becoming dislodged and loose inside the shipping container. Packaging shall prevent shifting of materials. One of the main reasons to get your radioactive waste shipping coordinator involved and physically seeing how the material is placed inside the package before buttoning the package up, closing the package. One of the main reasons for them to see it is so that they can verify that the objects inside of the container will not shift during transport. Shifting during transport causes particles to become dislodged and dose rates could increase. Any questions or comments? And a final note, a lot of lessons learned for this event. A lot of this could have been stopped if human performance tools were utilized. We hear about them all the time, we preach them all the time, and in most cases we use them all the time. This is an incident where they were not used to the extent necessary, and it got us in trouble. We have human performance tools like questioning attitude, stop, think, act, review, supervisor and/or peer checks for a reason. Utilizing those tools may have stopped this. Any questions? You have my information on the board, Scott Rawls. If you do have a question, please contact me. I'd be happy to help you in any way that I can. Thank you, and have a good day.